Have you ever felt that nagging pressure to find your one true calling? That single perfect thing you were put on this earth to do? It can feel like this totally impossible quest. But what if the whole idea of waiting around for some lightning bolt moment is actually what's holding you back? Today, we're going to unpack a completely different way to think about finding your life's work. All right, so let's start by tackling the biggest obstacle of all, this paralyzing myth that you're just supposed to know your purpose right out of the gate. This idea creates so much anxiety, but the reality is actually way more empowering than that. And look, the stakes here are incredibly high. A recent poll found that a staggering 87% of the world's workers feel disconnected from their jobs. I mean, think about that. That's almost 9 out of every 10 people who are more frustrated than fulfilled. This isn't just a small problem. It's a global issue of untapped potential. And this is the question that just haunts so many of us, right? You look at other people who seem to have it all figured out, and you can't help but think, what is wrong with me? We've been told our whole lives to follow our passion, but what are you supposed to do when you can't even name it? This really gets to the core of the problem. We're sold this idea that a calling is some kind of magical epiphany that just arrives one day, all neat and tidy. So we wait, and when it doesn't show up, we feel totally lost. But the truth is, this myth, it's the very thing that's keeping us stuck. So let's just reframe this whole thing. A calling isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's an active process of discovery. It's about looking back at your own life, the good, the bad, even the painful stuff, and starting to connect the dots, to see the patterns that have been there all along.
And that brings us to our first real, tangible step. See, before you can figure out where you're going, you have to understand where you've been. All the clues to your future, they're actually hidden in your past. You just have to learn how to listen for them.
This quote from Parker Palmer just captures it perfectly. Your life has been talking to you this whole time, dropping hints, leaving breadcrumbs. Your job isn't to invent some grand purpose out of thin air, but to simply listen to the story your own life is already telling you. So what does listening actually look like in practice? Well, it can be a painful moment. Take Jody Nolan, who watched her friend Larry write letters to his kids before he died of cancer. That pain sparked a mission in her to help other people do the same thing. Or it could be a theme that just keeps popping up, or an obstacle that pushed you down a different path, or even a skill that just feels ridiculously easy for you while everyone else seems to struggle with it. Here's a super practical way you can start, like right now. Grab a piece of paper and draw a timeline of your life. Plot out the big moments, the wins, the failures, all of it. Then look for those patterns, those common threads. And finally, and this one is so important, ask 5 people who really know you what they think you do best. You might be shocked at what they say, because sometimes our greatest strengths are completely invisible to us.
Okay, so once you start listening and gathering these clues, what's next? The temptation is to wait for the perfect plan and then take this giant, terrifying leap of faith. But there is a much smarter and way more effective way to do it. You build a bridge.
Just think about the difference for a second. The leap is what the myth tells us to do. Quit your job, sell your house, bet it all on a dream. It's this all-or-nothing gamble. The bridge, on the other hand, is all about taking small, intentional steps. Each little plank you lay gives you a bit more clarity and gets you closer to your goal, but without risking everything you have. Let's look at the story of Ben and Christy Carlson. They picked up their entire family and moved to Burundi to start a coffee company. From the outside, and honestly, even to them, it felt like this massive, imperfect leap into the complete unknown. They didn't know the language, didn't know the culture. It sounds terrifying, doesn't it? But here's the thing. When you look closer, you see it wasn't a leap at all. It was a bridge they'd been building for years. They were already living in South Africa. They started exploring their personal passions, things like coffee and photography. Then, an opportunity popped up that perfectly matched those passions. So that big move was actually just the next logical step, the result of a series of smaller, connected actions. Action created clarity, and that clarity showed them the very next step to take. And this really gets to the heart of it all. We spend so much of our lives waiting for a perfect map of the whole journey, but that map doesn't exist. What you really need is a shovel, a set of tools to just start digging right where you are. You uncover the path by taking action, not by planning it all out in your head. This brings us to what's really, truly at stake here. We are so afraid of failing, so afraid of making the wrong choice. But the real danger, The true failure is doing nothing at all. It's regret. This is such a powerful idea to sit with. When you make a choice and it doesn't work out, you know what? You learn something. You grow. You get priceless information for your next step. But when you don't commit, when you just stand still because you're scared, you learn absolutely nothing. Nothing changes. The cost of inaction is so much greater than the cost of a mistake.
So, for just a moment, forget asking, "What if I fail?" The real, final, most essential question you have to ask yourself is this: what happens if you don't even try? What does your life look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years if you just stay put, letting that fear keep you from taking that very first small step onto your bridge? That is the thought that should drive you to act.